I don't know if you can hear this, but they're actually speaking to you. They're singing. Today I'm going to indulge in one of my favorite activities. I'm going to bake some bread, and we're going to make our everyday bread that we have actually shown here in the channel before, but we've made some upgrades to the recipe, so we thought we would share that with you because it becomes actually much better. And we are going to make 2 big loaves today, so we're going to use in total 1 kilo of flour. That's why we have 720 milliliter of water that we are going to add a teaspoon of sugar and 15 grams of dry yeast. And now that's another little thing I figured out. It's actually easier to leave the yeast on the surface before you stir it so it hydrates. Then it's much easier to dissolve. So while we leave that aside, we will get on with our dry ingredients. So big bowl, 750 grams of Caputo Manitoba, which is a very strong wheat flour, W380, close to the maximum of 400. And that's actually where you have to think about your water content, because we are hydrating 72% here. Well, this flour can absorb a lot of water. If you have a flour with less baking strength, then you would lower the water maybe to 65% or something like that, because otherwise it gets hard to handle. And then we go in with 250 grams of biological whole wheat flour. It gives a nice, it's a nice mix of flour. It gives great taste to the bread. 1,000, perfect. So we have 1 kilo of flour, and we want to go in with about 2.5% of sea salt, so 25 grams of that. Sounds like a lot, but it is actually not. And now comes one of the tricks that we have learned. We are going in with baking enzyme. All flours contains enzymes naturally, but by boosting the enzyme level, we make sure that the crust gets better, and we make sure that it also has a longer shelf life after you bake it. So it improves many levels here. Secondly, this Bakers enzyme, it also adds a little bit of acidity to the dough, and yeast thrives if the environment is a little bit acidic, so you get actually better rise on your dough also. Somewhere between 2 to 3% of your flour weight, so let's say 25 grams of this also, go in the middle. But you can actually smell, it has some kind of smell of vinegar or something like that, but you can't smell that in the end product, don't worry about that. Basically that's all our dry ingredients, and now with a whisk we have to mix this, and we make sure that it's very well combined, because we're not going to knead this dough. We want it to be perfectly combined so we don't have the flour unevenly mixed here. That looks good. And I think it's about time that we can stir in our yeast. Should work much easier now, or actually it does work much easier. And now we're going to leave this for 7, 8, 10 minutes until we get nice bubbles on the surface. Our yeast is actually, wow, that's big. Look how...
Hydration did help actually.
It did help, but then you really know it's alive, and that's what you want to see. So we dump that straight in. And then we take our simple spoon and we mix it up until it's all combined. Somewhere in the middle I'm gonna change to a bench scraper or a dough card. For the beginning it's easier with the spoon. It takes a little bit of time because the flour needs time to hydrate. So now it looks very dry, and don't be encouraged to add extra water because it's more than wet enough. Just needs to penetrate all the flour, that's why. Let me get dough card instead here. Works a little bit easier. And we just start mixing it like this. And make sure to scrape down the sides so we get all the good stuff in here and keep our bowl clean. Lastly, I'm just going to flip it over a couple of times here to get the last of the dry stuff absorbed. And a nice round ball. And now we're going to cover this up and leave it for half an hour, maybe 45 minutes until double in size. We gave it a good half hour, and let's see how we are doing. And that became definitely double in size. But as you can see here, the surface is kind of rough and there are some dry spots. That will disappear as soon as we start a flip and fold. So we go in with a wet hand and then we pull it up, fold it over itself, and as you see, now it starts lifting itself. That's the gluten that strengthens up in the dough, and it goes really quickly, especially with such a strong flour. So once we have that, we're gonna give it a couple of these fold arounds here so we create some nice tension in the dough. Nice taut round ball, and we cover it and we give it another half an hour, 40 minutes, and then you'll see the surface become silky smooth instead. Well, it should be time for our second flip and fold, so let's see how our baby is looking. Wow, that definitely grew. It's
and smoothen out already.
Exactly, as I said. And you see the big bubbles you're getting here. That's really fast development in the dough. It's excellent, but that's because of the strong flour. So we give it another go here, wet hand, pull it up over itself, and after just 2 times, comes out.
Amazing.
So it strengthens up so much. I mean, it's amazing. And then we tuck it in again here around itself, build up some surface tension. Nice, again, a nice taut round ball. And now we give it another go until double in size. Again, half an hour, 40 minutes. Time for our third flip and fold, and last, yes. That looks good again, and it's getting very strong. It's nice. So wet hand again, and we do exactly the same one more time. And again, you see, just and tuck it in nicely. We just wait until it's double again, and then it's time for shaping our loaves. We are ready to shape some loaves, and here we can go 2 ways. First of all, this is ginormous, but we can go 2 ways. We could flour this up and take it out and try not to deflate it and split it in 2 and shape them so we get then you get a more open crumb with holes and stuff. But we're going for a more sandwich bread style today, so we're going to deflate it and form 2 loaves, boule as they're called, like French for ball. If I pronounced it wrong, I'm sorry. But first up, I have some parchment paper here with some glass balls because it's windy in our outdoor kitchen. We're going to give that a little bit of semolina, where we're going to place our loaves. Gives a nice texture on the bottom of the bread. We're going with wet hands. And then we split this in 2. There we go. And we shape it and we allow it to deflate. As I said, we don't mind that now. So we make some surface tension here, folding it around. And then we close it up nicely in the bottom. And we place it here. And we do exactly the same to the brother here.
Might be a sister.
Might be a sister, we don't know the gender. I love baking, it's so fun.
Yeah, that's your favorite thing.
True. When I retire, that's what I'm going to do every day. I'm going to bake.
Really? Yeah. Where are my cookies? I'm waiting for months
I
now.
have promised you the cookies, and I will make them. You don't have to remind me every 6 months. I will make them.
Thank you.
All I want to do now is to give them a little bit of olive oil on the surface. A little bit now. And that makes sure that they don't dry out here while they grow a little bit more. We cover them with our bowls. And then we let them rest here for maybe half an hour until they are also doubled in size. Our 2 breads, they have proofed and they are looking good. But before we move them, I just want to talk a little bit about the setup here because I have my oven preheated to 230. And inside the oven, I have the tops of my 2 Dutch ovens preheating together with the oven. In the beginning, I was also having the bottoms in my oven. But then what happens is the bottom of the bread gets too dark, it gets almost black and burned because I have a crap oven and I'm not allowed to buy a new one. So I only have heat from the bottom. So I found that if I leave the bottoms out and they're cold, then I get a super good result. So let's move these over here and set them nicely. And now comes a few tricks to get this really good. Spray bottle with water, and then you give them a good spritz of water. And you give them more than you would believe. They have to be wet. This water will allow for a very humid atmosphere inside the Dutch oven in the first 20 minutes of baking, and that will allow them to rise much more, so you get a good oven rise on them. That's a very good trick. And then to make them extra good, we're giving them a bit of sea salt on the top, because that's just the goodness
that's
you want.
my favorite part, actually.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Tastes so good.
So nice when you bite into a slice of this.
It's the best.
Now we're going to score them. I'm using a scalpel because I don't have a bread lame. I actually ordered a bread lame, but it hasn't arrived yet. So we give them a nice score here. And make it a little bit deep on both of them here. So something like that. Here we go. 1 and 2. And then we cover them up here. And into the oven, and now we let them go 20 minutes covered, and then we will uncover, and then we will let them go another 15-20 minutes. Time to uncover those beauties we have in here. Let's see, there they are. But that's just beautiful. And
they do look beautiful.
They are, and look at the oven rise we got, and that's from the humidity. That is just fantastic. But they need more time, and we want to bake them hard. So I'm thinking at least 20 minutes more, but keep your eyes on them because you don't want to burn them. Well, it smells like a bakery in here, out here, whatever you want to call it, but it smells good. And they are ready. If that is not just a beauty.
Yes, it is.
And one more. And now listen to this. That's good crust. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you can hear it, but they're actually speaking to you. They're singing. That's just beautiful. Now comes the best part, because I get to cut into this beauty here, and that's, And I'm going here on my wife's favorite part this time, sorry love, and listen to that.
That's the crust you want to hear.
That's exactly what you want to hear. But it's perfect. Look, the crumb is perfect. This is a perfect sandwich bread. You know, you don't have too big holes. You have an excellent crumb, soft, moist, and with an excellent crust. You dip it in some good extra virgin olive oil, and that is... Listen to that. It's magnificent bread. The crust is out of this world, and that's because of the enzymes. They give so much extra thickness and hardness to the crust, so you really get a good crust, and it also extends the shelf life quite a lot actually. Keep this in the fridge and you have bread here for 2 weeks easy without going off. Give this a shot, it's a great bread.